Good afternoon. In today's session, we will study the special graphs from the earlier session. That is, we have studied complete graphs, wheels and cycles. Now we will continue with the next special graph, which is n cubes or hypercubes. Now what is that? For any n belongs to natural numbers, that is the number of vertices will be a natural number. The hypercube Qn, so this hypercube graph is denoted by capital letter Q and n is the number of vertices, is a simple graph consisting of two copies of Qn minus 1 connected together at corresponding nodes. Q0 has one node. Okay, so now what is this hypercube basically is, suppose when we are creating our bit strings, okay, so first and foremost it will be 0 and 1, okay, so this is 0 and 1, the binary numbers actually 0 or 1, the length is 1, length 1. When the length is 2, you will get 4 such numbers 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1, the length is 2. Similarly, when we have length 3, then we will be getting 0 0 0, that is we will get 8 such combinations of zeros and ones when the length is 3 for a binary string. So basically your n cube is denoting this binary string, the vertices denote the binary string. So for Q1 it will denote two vertices 0 and 1, okay, and the edge will be joined in such a way that whenever the edge two vertices will be adjacent or they will have an edge between them, if the bit strings that they represent differ in exactly one position, so from 0 we are going to 1, so here they differ in exactly. Now we will look at the next example. Actually it will be easier to understand. So let's look at this example. So we have 0 0 0 1, then 1 0 and 1 1. So for this, if you see, from 0 0 to 0 1, there is a change in the position of the second 0 and it has changed to 1. That is 0 0 has changed to 0 1, and in the next case also 0 0 has changed to 1 0. We can create an edge in this n cube or hypercube if and only if they differ in exactly one position. Differ in bit string should differ in exactly one position. So from here, this position it has changed, and in this case we have changed this, and from 0 1 we replaced this one, and from here we changed this. Basically we can only join two vertices if they differ by one position. So let's look in this graph. From 0 0 0, it can be 0 0 1. We can change this 0 to 1, or we can change the second 0 to 1, or we can change the first 0 to 1. So this vertex will be joined to three other vertices. Similarly for all the other cases. Okay, so hypercube is basically a graph which is whose vertices are bit strings of different lengths, and the edges are created in such a way that if they differ in exactly one position, we can create an edge between the two vertices. Now the next kind of graph is bipartite graphs or bipartite graphs. So basically a graph that has the property that its vertex set, suppose V is the vertex set, and we can divide the vertex set into two disjoint subsets, that is the intersection should be null set or empty set. That is, if I am dividing this V, capital V vertex set into two disjoint subsets V1 and V2, then V1 intersection V2 should be empty set, null or phi. Now in this case, such that from V1 each edge connects a vertex in V2, then that kind of graph is known as a bipartite graph. For example, consider the graph of given over here. So first we will see the definition. We will leave the definition for now, and we will see directly the example. Yeah. So over here we have two vertex set V1 and V2. In the vertex set V1, I have the vertices V1, V3 and V5. While in the vertex set V2, I have V2, V4 and V6. Now in this case, whenever I have such kind of graph, now if you look carefully, V1 is connected to the vertices in V2 only. It is not connected to the vertices in V1 itself. So this kind of graph where we can divide the vertex set and then make sure that the vertices of the first set are not connected to the vertices of the first set itself is known as a bipartite graph. So let's see the definition now. A simple graph G is called a bipartite if its vertex set V can be partitioned. So basically we are partitioning the vertex set into two disjoint sets V1 and V2 such that every edge in the graph connects a vertex in V1 and a vertex in V2, so that no edge in G connects either two vertices in V1 or two vertices in V2. When this condition holds, we call the pair V1, V2 a bipartition. We are doing a partition into two, hence bipartition of the vertex set V of the graph G. Now, let's take an example. There are two graphs given. We have to find whether the following are bipartite or not. So let's take the first graph G. So let's take this graph. Graph G, if we are dividing the vertex set of graph G into V1 and V2, and I am taking the vertices in V1 as A, B, D. Why am I taking these three? Because if I take A, B and D, look whether they have edges in between them. No. Between A and D we don't have any edge. Similarly between BA and BD, and similarly with DA and DB. So we can take these three. Apart from that, we can take V2, the rest of them, C, E, F and G. Now if you notice, each edge of V1, if I am creating a graph in this way, A is connected to G, C, even F and E. So A is connected to all the four vertices of V2, but it is not connected to any of the vertices of V1. Similarly, you can check for all the other cases. So the graph G is a bipartite graph. But what about graph H? Graph H is not bipartite because its vertex set cannot be partitioned. So this is not bipartite. This is a bipartite graph. But this is not bipartite. Okay. So you can create the vertex set in such a way that if you are connecting, the edge should not be in between the same vertices, in between the vertices of the same set. Now, based on this, we can see that a simple graph is bipartite if and only if it is possible to assign one of two different colors to each vertex of the graph so that no two adjacent vertices are assigned the same color. That is, suppose if you are assigning colors to a graph, then it should be possible to assign two different colors to vertex. So if I am giving the color red to A and red to B and red to D. Now you can see that if I give the color red to G, the vertex G, it is not possible. That is, the condition is that no two adjacent vertices are assigned the same color. So over here to G, I can give the color blue. Yeah, I am giving the color blue to G. Similarly, can I give the color blue to F? Yes, I can give the color blue to F because G and F are not connected. And what about E? E and F, E and G are also not connected. I can give the color blue. And similarly, to C also I can give the color blue. So basically, when you assigning colors to any graph, you can check whether they are bipartite or not by seeing that whether you can assign color in such a way that no two adjacent vertices are assigned the same. Now for this graph H, if you try doing the same thing, it won't be possible because it is not bipartite. So for this graph, if you take two colors and assign them in such a way that no two adjacent vertices are assigned the same color, this graph won't satisfy the condition. The next topic is complete bipartite graph. Now, what do you mean by a complete bipartite graph? So this is a combination of bipartite graph which we have seen earlier. Whenever a vertex set is divided into two and we make sure that edges are connected in such a way that whenever we are taking an edge from one vertex, then the other vertex should be in the V2 vertex set. If we are taking a vertex from V1, then the edge should be connected in such a way that the other vertex should be on V2. And what was a complete graph? If all the vertices are connected to each other, then it is a complete graph. So why am I saying that it is a combination of both? The reason being, the complete bipartite graph, all the vertices of V1 are connected to all the vertices of V2. So it is denoted by K of m comma n, that is K subscript m comma n, where m is the number of vertices in V1 and n is the number of vertices in V2. K m comma n is a graph that has its vertex set partitioned into two subsets of m and n vertices respectively, with an edge between two vertices if and only if one vertex is in the first subset and the other vertex is in the second subset. Now the example for complete bipartite graph K2, 3, that is in V1 we have two vertices, in V2 we have three vertices. So for that I'll just draw it here roughly and after that we will see the entire figure. So in V1 we have two vertices A and B, and in V2 we have three vertices 1, 2 and 3. I'm naming them differently, you can even name it with alphabets. Now if in a complete bipartite graph we see that A will be connected to all the three vertices in this way, and B will also be connected to all the three vertices. Okay, so this is a diagram of K2, 3. Similarly, you can create for K3, 3, 3, 5 and 2, 6. Please pause the video and do it by yourself. So these are the graphs for all the examples given over here. K2, 3. So I have taken it in vertically, but here we have taken. So this will be your V1. I'll just make a circle. So this is your V1 vertices, and these will be the vertices of V2. Similarly, this is for K3, 3 as shown, K3, 5 and K2, 6. Okay. Now, these definitions that we have studied in the earlier class also, that is cycles, wheels and complete graphs, along with bipartite graph, complete bipartite graphs are very, very important 2-mark questions. That is, whenever you are studying these topics, you have to learn the definition and the graph figure also. So, when you are mentioning and also along with that, what are the notations? So we will see the notations at the end, but for now, yeah, special graph structures. So some special cases of undirected graph structures was, the first one was complete graph, which we have seen in the earlier class. So complete graph on n vertices was denoted by Kn. So you have to remember which graph is denoted by what kind of notation, and then the definition and also the figure. So complete graph is denoted by Kn. Here it is a simple graph that contains exactly one edge between each pair of distinct vertices. That is, if you are taking a complete graph with 4 vertices, then every vertex is connected to every other vertex. So this is a complete graph with 4 vertices. Now we have the next graph as a cycle. Cycle is when adjacent vertices, when vertices that are next to each other are connected by an edge. So instead of this, so this is a complete graph K4. If I want to draw C4, it will be I'll have to take 4 vertices and connect the vertices which are next to each other to create a cycle. That is kind of a closed loop. Then the next type is wheels. So in the case of wheels, so for this Cn, that is C4, if I am taking wheel, I have to add one extra vertex in the middle, connect that vertex to all the other vertices and also have the cycle. So this will be, so this is another vertex. Okay, here we don't have a vertex in the middle. Those are directly two edges connecting the opposite vertices. Here we have a vertex. So if this is A, B, C, D, then this is the vertex E. So totally we have 8 edges in this W4. Okay, although we may have 5 vertices, it is denoted as W4 only. Now the next one was n cubes or hypercubes. So n cubes or hypercubes, if you remember, this is actually a very special case where you are denoting the vertices by the length of the bit string. Suppose if you have the bit string length as 2, then you will have the vertices name as 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0 and 1, 1, and you should create an edge in such a way that from one vertex to the another there should be only exactly one change in the bit position. So from this it should be 0, 1. We cannot correct 0, 0 and 1, 1 because there will be two changes in the bit position. We have to have only one change. After that we have bipartite graphs. What are bipartite graphs? Whenever we can divide the graph in such a graph vertex set in such a way that if we have two subsets of the vertices, then if we are creating an edge, then one vertex should be in one subset and the other vertex should be in the other subset. Next was complete bipartite graph. N cubes is denoted by the notation Qn, and then we have complete bipartite graph denoted by K of m comma n. M here denotes the vertices in subset V1 and denotes the vertices in subset V2. Now you have to, when you are writing the definitions are important for 2 marks. When you are writing the definition, you have to remember which kind of graph it is, the notation, after that the definition, and then the graph figure. All the 4 things need to be written when you are writing the definition for these special graph structures. Now next next is subgraph. So basically sometimes what we need is we need only a part of the graph to solve a problem. That is, we require only some part of the graph to solve a problem. Now suppose if you have a network between all the cities in India, okay, so there are a lot of cities in India, and among them you have a network of computer or data centers, and you need to send a message to all the cities in Telangana. Okay, now the condition is that you don't need the entire network, you only need the network of our state. So in that case, what you do is you consider some part of the graph instead of considering the entire graph. So that is known as a subgraph. So basically what happens is when edges and vertices are removed, without removing endpoints of any remaining edges, a smaller graph is obtained. Such a graph is called a subgraph or the original graph. So we will see an example to understand the same. Before that, let's see the formal definition. A subgraph of a graph G is equal to V comma E is a graph H is equal to W comma F, where W is a subset of V and F is a subset of E. Now basically we are creating a subgraph of G which is denoted by this letter H, and we are creating subsets of V comma E which are denoted by the letters W and F, and after that what we are doing is we are drawing our graph. So now for that, a subgraph H of G is a proper subgraph of G if H is equal to G. If both the graphs are exactly the same, then they will be known as then the subgraph H will be known as the proper subgraph. Let's see an example. So we have this example where this is actually K5 if you remember. Complete graph with 5 vertices. You can notice each vertex is connected to all the other 4 vertices. Now to create a subgraph for this graph, so if we are denoting it by G, instead of K5 is just the name of the graph, we will denote it by G. Then this H, what does it contain? It contains only 4 vertices and also it contains how many edges? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has 4 vertices and only 5 edges. And what about this graph? It will have 5 vertices and it has 10 edges. Okay, you can just count the edges and 5 vertices. So over here, if I am considering this as H, then it has W set of vertices and F set of edges, and both of them are a subset of this graph. So this is an explanation of subgraph. After that, we have union of graphs. So how you do union of sets? Similarly, you can perform union of graphs, and the definition is the union of two simple graphs G1 is equal to V1, E1 and G2 is equal to V2, E2. So there are two graphs denoted by G1 and G2, for which the edges and vertices are V1 and E1, V2 and E2 respectively. And those are both simple graphs. Then if I want to find the union of the graph, what I do is I'll create a union of the vertices and also the edges. Then I will get the graph union, which will be denoted by G1 union G2. Now, if I have these two graphs, okay, so if you notice in G1 I have A, B, C, D, E. In G2 I have one extra, we don't have an E, we have an F. A, B, C, D, F. Now what we do is we create a union. So in the G1 union G2, I will have how many vertices? So I'll have all the 6 vertices, that is A, B, C, D, E and F. After that, what about the edges? So here A is connected to B, okay, that I have done, and A is connected to D. Here A is not connected to D, so I'll take the edge of this one. A is connected to D. After that, if you notice, B is connected to D. Over here it is not connected. So since we have the union, this will be B is connected to D. So whatever edges are present in both the graphs, you have to draw all the edges in G1 union G2. These are very simple concepts and also important only for 2 marks. There is nothing difficult to understand in these concepts of graph terminology. Now after that, we have the next topic, representing graphs and graph isomorphism. So in graph representation and isomorphism, this subtopic covers the representations of graph. We have seen how we represent relations, if you remember. So we represent relations by 2 methods. One is by digraphs, that is directed graphs, and also matrices. Now similarly, how do we represent graphs over here? And we will also see what the term isomorphism means. So graph is represented by something known as adjacency list, adjacency matrices, and incidence matrices. So there are 3 representations of graph. One is the adjacency list, the next is the adjacency matrices, and the incidence matrices. After that, the next is graph isomorphism. What do we mean by isomorphism? The basic concept is, if 2 graphs are isomorphic, when are they isomorphic? If and only if they are identical except for their node names. So node over here, we know that it means vertex names. So apart from the name of the vertex, if they are exactly same, that is they have the same number of vertices and the same number of the edges, then they are known as isomorphic graphs. This is the basic definition. We will see the topic in detail later. So for now, how do we represent graph? One way to represent a graph without multiple edges is to list all the edges of this graph. So we are talking about a simple graph. How to represent a simple graph? First, we will see that. And another way to represent a graph with no multiple edges is to use adjacency list, which specify the vertices that are adjacent to each vertex of the graph. So what we do is we create a list of all the vertices that are present in the graph and to which vertices they are adjacent to, or if there is an edge connected to that vertex, we write the vertex names. So let's see that. Use adjacency list to describe the simple graph given in the figure. So this is the figure. Now what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to create a table, a basic table. I'll just create it here roughly. We can see it later. Vertex, and I am writing adjacent vertices. Okay, these are the two columns. Now, what are the vertices in this graph? We have 5 vertices. Just write all of those in this column A, B, C, E, D. After that, to A, how many edges are there connected to A? There is 1, 2, and 3. So we have to write to which vertex it is connected to. So A is connected to B or adjacent to B. Then A is adjacent to C, and A is adjacent to E. B, C, E. Okay. The next one is B. To which vertex is B adjacent to? B is adjacent only to A. So we write simply A. After that, we have to look for C. C is adjacent to A, D, and E. So we can write A, D, and E. After that, we have E. To which vertices is E adjacent to? E is sorry, I have to write D first and E later. Yeah. So D is adjacent to C and E. And E is adjacent to C, D, and A. C, D, and A. So this list is known as an adjacency list for a simple graph. The same has been written over here. We call it as an adjacency list for a simple graph. Now the next is represent. So this was a simple graph without any multi-edges, loops, or directions. Now we have represent the directed graph shown in the figure by listing all the vertices that are the terminal vertices of edges starting at each vertex of the graph. So this is the graph given. So here if we notice, we have loops, we have multiple edges, and we also have directions. Now what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to create 2 columns as we have done earlier, but the names of the columns will be different. So here we will have a column for initial vertex and a column for terminal vertex. Why do we need this? Because initial vertex and terminal vertex are the concepts we need only when we have directions in the graph. So in this case, initial vertex, for the case of initial vertex, we will write all the vertices of our graph A, B, C, D, E. Okay. Now, A is the initial vertex for which edges? So A is the initial vertex for this one, that is, it is going from A to B, and even for this edge A to C, and then this edge A to D, and finally A to E. So we are supposed to write what are the terminal vertices for all the edges that are connected to A. It is connected to B, C, D, and E. Okay. Similarly, you can find out for B. Now for a loop, we should write B is the initial vertex, B is the terminal vertex. So we have to write B. And what about any other? So B is the terminal vertex for A, but it is not the initial. And here if you notice BD, it is starting initial vertex is B, terminal vertex is B, so just mention that. Now what about BE? Here B, in the case of BE, B is the terminal vertex but not the initial vertex. This scenario we are only finding where B is the initial vertex. So there are only two terminal vertices, that is B and D. That is, there are only two edges originating or starting from D. Now similarly, you can solve it entirely by yourself. Take it as a practice problem and do it. So these are the solutions you can verify from the same. Now why is D's vertices empty? Okay, and another thing, this column there has been a mistake. Please change it to terminal vertices. Terminal vertices, and this table is for us. The name of the table is adjacency list for a directed graph. For a directed graph. And why is D empty? Because all the vertices that are all the edges that are connected to D, they are all, D is the terminal vertex, but for D there is no edge where D is the initial vertex. Look over here. E to D, we don't have an edge. We have an edge from E to D, not D to E. Similarly, we have an edge from B to D and A to D. There is no edge which is whose initial vertex is D. So there is nothing written over here. Okay. Now the next concept is adjacency matrices. To simplify computation, graphs can be represented using matrices. Two types of matrices are commonly used to represent graphs, and they are as follows. One is based on the adjacency of vertices and the other is based on the incidence of vertices and edges. So let's look directly at what kind of matrices we will be creating. So first and foremost is the adjacency matrix. Suppose that G is equal to V comma E is a simple graph where mod of V is equal to N. That is, the vertices of N is the number of vertices in the graph G, which are denoted by V1, V2 and so on up to Vn. The adjacency matrix A or AG of the graph G with respect to this listing of the vertices is the N cross N 0, 1 matrix. So again, similar to relations, this is also a 0, 1 matrix with 1 as its I, jth entry when Vi and Vj are adjacent. So if there is an edge between two vertices, then we will write 1, otherwise 0. In other words, if adjacency matrix is A is equal to A of I, j, then if there is an edge between the vertices, we will write 1. If there is no edge, we will write 0. Now, let's take an example. Use an adjacency matrix to represent the graph shown in the figure. The figure is this way. So the solution is, we order the vertices A, B, C, D, and what we do is, we will write our matrix, we denote it by AG. Now, you have to take how many rows and how many columns. How many ever vertices are there, the same numbers of rows and columns should be taken. So we have A, B, C, D. Similarly, over here, A, B, C, D. Now, is there an edge between A and A? No, there is no loop. So 0. After that, is there an edge between A and B? Yes, so it will be 1. What about A and C? Yes, we have an edge, so 1. And what about A and D? There is an edge, so 1. After that, from B to A, since there is no direction, A to B and B to A are one and the same. So A to B we put 1. Similarly, B to A also we have to write a 1 over here. That is, there is an edge between B to A. Okay. Now what about B and D? So in the case of B comma B, we don't have a loop here, so we will write 0. B and C, yes, we have an edge 1, and B and D, we don't have an edge, so 0. Similarly, what about CA? There is an edge 1, CB 1, CC no loop, and CD not connected 0. Now lastly, DA, yes, there is an edge. Then DB, no edge. DC, also no edge. And D and D, there is no loop on D, so 0. So this is the matrix representing the graph given. This is also important for 2 marks and a very simple concept if you understand it once. Now, yeah, so this is the matrix. Please write over here as AG. Okay, so it is a matrix A for the graph G. Okay. Now, instead of the graph, in the earlier problem, we were given the graph and we had to write the matrix. Now, instead of that, we will be given a matrix. We have to draw the graph. How should we do it? First and foremost, you have to name the vertices as A, B, C, D, and over here also A, B, C, D. Now, after that, take 4 vertices as A, B, C, and D. Now, is A connected to A? No, we have a 0. A is connected to B and A is connected to C. Okay, we have connected. What about A and D? It is not connected. After that, B is connected to A and B is connected to D. Okay. C is connected to A and C is connected to D. C is connected already to A, we connect C to D. And lastly, D is connected to B and C. D is connected to B and C. So this is the graph for the adjacency matrix. Now you will have a question, what if I take A over here, B over here, C is over here and D is over here. Now in that case also, or maybe D over here and C is here, A, B, C and D. And if you notice, A is connected to B, A is connected to C, B is connected to A and B is connected to D, C is connected to A and C is connected to D. Now both of these graphs are the same. We have only changed the position of the vertices, but the number of vertices and the number of edges and also how which edges what kind of edges, that is the edges in between the vertices are also the same. So if you notice, A is connected to C over here, A is connected to C over here. We have just changed the position of the vertices. So you can draw both of these graphs and both of these graphs are correct. Okay. Now after that, first let me show you the clear diagram. Yeah. So this is the example. Now after that, we have another example where these were all simple graphs. Now instead of that, we will take the graph where we have loops and multiple edges. Yeah. So here we have an adjacency matrix. We have a graph and we are supposed to represent it with the help of an adjacency matrix. We have been given a pseudo graph. Pseudo graph means which has both loops and multiple edges. So the graph is as follows. Yeah. So over here we have the graph. Now how many vertices are there? We are supposed to take the same number of rows and columns. So A, B, C and D. Similarly A, B, C and D. After that, from A to A, do we have any edge? No, 0. A to B, how many edges do we have? 1, 2 and 3. So we have to write 3. What about A to C? There is no edge at all, so 0. A to D, we have 1 edge and 2 edge, so 2. Now after that, B to A, we have 3 edges, 1, 2 and 3. B to B, there is nothing. B to C, 1 and B to D, 1. After that, we have the vertex P. Vertex P, how many edges? C to A, there is nothing, 0. C to B, only 1. C to C, there is a loop, so 1. And C to D, there are 2. After that, D to A, 2 again. D to B, 1. D to C, 2. And there is no loop, so D to D is 0. So this is the case, that is when we are writing adjacency matrix. So we are writing adjacency matrix for a pseudo graph. Then basically what we have to do is we have to count the number of multiple edges. If we have a loop, we are supposed to write the value 1. Okay, that is C is connected to C, so that is the reason we are writing 1. Okay, so now after that, we have already noticed in the earlier relations topic, we have seen that we use 0, 1 matrices to represent directed graphs and for relations basically, and we also use directed graphs. So similarly, we can use matrices for directed graphs also, and that is with respect to the vertices. If both the vertices are connected, it will be 1. If we have A to B, then it will be 1. B to A will be 0, and vice versa. So now we have seen adjacency matrices, and we will be looking in the next matrix, incidence matrix. So incidence matrix is basically when instead of the vertices, we try to represent by using the edges. So another way to represent graphs is to use incidence matrices. Let G is equal to V comma B be an undirected graph, and the vertices are V1, V2 and Vn, and the edges are E1, E2 and Em. Because the vertices and the edges won't be of the same number usually, so it is represented, the number of vertices is being represented by n and the number of edges is being represented by m. Then the incidence matrix with respect to this ordering of V and E is n cross m. That is, we use the n number of vertices and m number of edges matrix. M is equal to Mij, where Mij will be 1 when edge Ej is incident to vertex Vi and 0 otherwise. Now how do we do this? So given the graph, represent the graph shown in the figure with an incidence matrix. Now in this case, what we have to do is, we have to write our vertices in the rows. So we will be V1, V2, V3, V4 and V5 will be the rows, while the columns will be represented by the edges. So E1, E2, E3, E4, E5 and E6. Okay. Now V1 is incident to E1. Okay, E1 is connected to V1, so that is, we call it incidence. So V1 is incident to E1, so we will write over here 1. What about V1 and E2? Yes, it is incident 1. V1 and E3. E3 is from V4 to V2. E3 is incident to V4 and V2, but not V1. So this will be 0. Next is E4. It is also not incident to V1, 0. E5 is over here, not incident to V1, 0. And E6 is also not incident to V1. So this will also be 0. Now similarly, we can fill the entire rows of this matrix. So let's look for V2. V2, what I will do is, I will write to which edges it is incident to. I'll write 1. So V2 is incident to E3, E4 and also E6. So E3, E4 and E6, the rest all will be 0. Okay, this is a better way. After that we have V3. V3 is incident to E6 and E5. So E5 and E6, the rest all 4 are 0. After that we have V4. V4 is incident to E1, E3, only 2. So this will be 1 and all the others will be 0. And after that finally V5. V5 is incident to E2, E4 and E5, that is 3. E2, E4 and E5. So we have to write for E2 1, E4 will be 1, E5 will be 1, the rest all will be 0. So this is the way to represent an incidence matrix. So let's just compare. In the case of adjacence matrix, both the rows and columns were represented by vertices, But in the case of incidence matrix, rows is represented by using vertices, while columns are being represented by edges. This is very, very important. If you interchange it, you will get a wrong matrix. So better remember it as RV and CE. Rows, vertices, columns and edges. Now the next will be, let's just look at the solution clearly. The incidence matrix is as follows. Pause the video, note down the graph in your notes and try to solve the matrix. All this creation of matrices are also important for 2 marks and very simple concepts. Now the next thing is, incidence matrix can also be used to represent multiple edges and loops. Multiple edges are represented in the incidence matrix using columns with identical entries because these edges are incident with the same pair of vertices. Loops are represented using a column with exactly one entry equal to 1 corresponding to the vertex that is incident with this loop. Now let's look at the same. Represent the pseudograph shown in the figure using an incidence matrix. Why are we calling this pseudograph? Let's recall, because it has multiple edge and loops. Now after that, we have to take the vertices as rows. So V1, V2, V3, V4 and V5, and your edges will be the columns. So let's take that. We have around 8 edges. So we have to write all of them: E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E7 and E8. After that, now the first one, V1, we will check to which edge is it incident to. It is incident to E1, E2 and E3. Okay. There are multiple edges, so we have taken multiple edges over here. E2 is also taken, E3 is also taken. So we will write 1, 1, 1 and then all zeros. After that, we have V2. V2 is incident to E2, E3, E4 and also E6. So E2, E3, E4, E6 and also E7. Okay. So we will write, there are 5. So E2, E3, E4 also, then E6 and E7. And it is not incident to E5, E8 and E1. So let's just mention that. This way you can take for V3. So let me just write it. Yeah. So this is the matrix, incidence matrix for this pseudograph. Verify for V3, V4 and V5. Solve it by yourself. So by now we have seen how to represent graphs. Representing graphs can be done by 2 ways. One is by list, the other is by matrices. In the case of list, we have seen 2 methods. One is for simple graphs, the other is for directed graphs. And in the case of matrices, we have seen adjacency matrix and we have seen incidence matrix. Okay, so this is for representing graphs. After that, the next topic will be isomorphism of graphs, which we will see later.